Welcome to the Zay Zay Zone. I'm Isaiah, aka Zay Zay Nicks, and today we're back with How to Kill a Show. And for today's episode, we're going back to 52 years ago for the show Good Times. So, Florida Evans was first a character on the sitcom Maude, which aired from 1972 until 1978. Florida Evans was Maude's housekeeper on the show for the first and second season. And during Florida's time on the show, her character would become very popular with the viewers that the producers wanted to give Florida a show of her own. Esther Rowe, who played Florida Evans, agreed, but she insisted on having a father figure on the show. That was her request, and the request was granted. And then on the season 2 episode, Florida's Goodbye, Florida's husband would receive a promotion that would allow for Florida to stay at home and be a housewife. And from there, a new black sitcom was born. Good Times is a sitcom that began airing on February 8, 1974 until August 1st, 1979. The show was created by Eric Monte and Mike Evans. The show is about a black family living in a low-income building in Chicago. The show's cast includes Esther Rowe as the loving and caring mother, Florida Evans, John Amos as the strict and hardworking father, James Evans Sr., Bernadette Stannis as the sarcastic daughter, Thelma Evans, Ralph Carter as the smart son, Michael Evans, Jimmy Walker as the goofy fan favorite son, James Evans Jr., better known as JJ, and last but not least, Janet Dubois as the nosy neighbor, Walona Woods. Good Times was a huge hit. The show would stay in the top 20 of the Nielsen ratings for its first season, and by the second season, the show would peak in the top 10 of Nielsen ratings. During the first seasons, the producer would notice that JJ had become a popular character, and would start writing tons of episodes on the character and which the actors didn't like. They also didn't like how the white writers portrayed his character. Although the show's ratings in the third season would begin to dip, the show itself would remain a huge hit. However, there was a problem behind the scenes, and this problem was between the writers, the producers, and John Amos, who plays James Evans Sr. John Amos didn't like how the writers wrote for the black characters on the show, and majority of the writers were white people. And by this time, the co-creator of the show, Eric Monte, was no longer behind the scenes, so now it was mostly just white writers writing for a black show. And that's why John Amos clashed repeatedly with them. And because of this, his character was absent many times during the third season, even having the legendary Louis Gossett Jr. join an episode as Florida's brother, and his character was very, very James-like. But that didn't work. And by the end of the season, the writers and producers were tired of John Amos and his actions. Like they were fed up with a black actor teaching white writers on how to write a black show. It makes no sense, but that's just the way it was. Now, despite the trouble behind the scenes, Good Times was still renewed for a fourth season. And in the first episode, the Evans family would get ready to move as James found a brand new job. They planned a whole surprise party for when he came back home, but they would receive some heartbreaking news.
We regret to inform you that your husband, James Evans, was killed in an automobile.
This episode will also give us the iconic damn, damn, damn scene.
Damn, damn, damn!
But yeah, that was the answer to the problem behind the scenes. Fire John Amos and kill off his character. Esther Rowe was not pleased with this decision. And as you know earlier, we talked about how she insisted on having a father figure on the show. And now her request was being disrespected. The fourth season will be a very different season. We see the family trying to navigate through life after James died. This season was a mess, and it was clear that a lot of the actors were really happy, especially Esther Rowe, because she left the show at the end of the fourth season. And despite her departure, the show was still renewed for a fifth season without her. Season 5 will see the neighbor Walona Woods become the star of the show. And the show started out with a 4-part story arc about an abused little girl in the building named Penny Gordon, played by Janet Jackson, who later gets adopted by Walona. And at this time, the show is a completely different thing. It's way different from where it started, and it's a whole different thing. Like you can see clear as day that it's completely different. There's no Esther Rowe, there's no John Amos, The writing is okay, it's just a huge mess, and they could not try to save this mess. So, Good Times was a dying show by this time, and the producers practically begged for the network to give them a sixth and final season of the show. And for the sixth season, the producers had a plan to bring Esther Roll back. And basically, if she refused, then they will kill off Florida in a plane crash. Esther Roll will return on a few conditions. One being improved scripts, two being fixing the characters, three being more realistic black family storylines. And the producers agreed, and Good Times will return for its sixth and final season in fall 1978 with Esther Roll as the star again. This season begins with Florida coming back home and Thelma's wedding. She married professional football player Keith Anderson, who suffered a career-ending injury at his wedding. And I will say that this season was much better than the last two seasons, and the show was ready to go out on a high note, in which it did. On the last episode of Good Times called End of the Rainbow, Walona and Penny moved out of the building. DJ gets a new job at a comic book company and he moves out. Michael moves into his college campus. Keith becomes fully healed and can accept his football deal. Thelma becomes pregnant with a baby and is also planning to move out and takes her mother with her at the end. And at the end of the whole episode, they find out that they will be in the same building as Walona and Penny. And with that, Good Times ended on a good note. But yeah, Good Times is really one of the best black sitcoms of all time. Like, the show peaked, the show fell, and the show got itself back up on its feet. And despite the show being over 50 years old at this point, the show still holds up well to this day and is one of the most important black sitcoms of all time. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching another episode of the Zay Zay Zone. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please give the video a like and subscribe. And comment down below your thoughts on Good Times, the behind the scenes problems and all that, or other shows you want to see on the series. But yeah guys, other than that, peace!